got a question, ask Tom on Home Show Radio.
This is Home Show Radio live on Facebook and YouTube. Your questions, Tom's answers. Now here's Tom Tynan and Charlie Mosier.
And we're up and running here on Ask Tom Live. I'm Tom. That's Charlie. You'll see him in a second. There, see me now. See me now. See him later. That's the way it is. But you can listen to me. There he goes. Told you, I didn't lie. And you can always hear me now, hear me later, hear me anytime you want if you go to homeshowradio.com, because I do a weekend show on Saturday and Sunday answering people's questions, and it's always at your access that you can access at any time and listen to it at homeshowradio.com. Just hitting the listen now button, I do believe, if I have that right, Charlie, and it's something a piece of cake. But if you, something like that. But if you want to listen live and you're in the Houston area, or you get Sports Radio 610, or you go online and stream it, it's on Saturdays 9 to 12 and Sundays from 8 until 11. Every weekend we have something going on. We don't leave you hanging. Of course, before I might leave you hanging, I also have Danny Milliken, who comes in on the radio before me on Saturdays from 7 to 9. He is our gardening guru expert who teams up with a whole bunch of experts, and he does a great job when it comes to gardening. And I still say it now because it's still, some people have forgotten, but last February there was a lot of yards destroyed, and in Houston, yards are people are very proud of. They get signs and everything when they get a big one and a good one. So yard of the month, that is. As far as that goes, he's still helping people left and right just from the recoil of the freeze.
It is no matter where I travel in the country, because I was the last couple of weeks I've been in Ohio and Virginia and
yes.
Where else was I? And California. Anyway, I mentioned back in February we had a freeze, and no matter where you go in the United States, everyone knows Texas had a freeze in February. It's the most amazing thing.
We made the news.
Texans are tough about a lot of things. Cold isn't one of them.
No. And I'm in Brownsville, and I run a welding program for the college, and we have outdoor welding. And I have welders who grew up in Brownsville who won't go outside because it's too hot. I mean, it's weird. The extremes just get Texans. For some reason, they're looking for something that doesn't exist in Texas, but they're still waiting for the perfect day.
I say to my friends back in New England when they'll say to me, "Oh, isn't it hot down there?" I go, "Yeah, outside."
That's right. We have air conditioning, and we have a lot of it.
And you know what else we got questions that you can send us anytime you want. You go ahead and let me put the thing here, right here. You put this up. You can put your questions in the comment section down below. We've got some queued up already, and we'll get to those in a minute. But we'll also be answering questions from the Ask Tom section of Home Show Radio. Some questions that I found that I thought might be of interest to you. We're going to cover some of those. But first, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go around the world and up your block with What's News in Home Improvements. Almost sound like a real announcer there, didn't I?
And I have no idea what it is, so I'm just sitting and waiting.
We should probably explain. Tom has no idea what the What News section is until he sees it.
I get a little preview once in a while, but not much.
That's right. We try to keep him in the dark. Today we're going to talk about how COVID has hit home mortgages.
Oh.
And this is a real issue. He says that apparently the delinquent FHA loans are being blamed on COVID. Their recovery, as people are recovering from COVID, the impact on the FHA mortgages could hit the entire real estate market. And this is all everything I'm going to share with you is according to the American Enterprise Institute that did this research across all of the FHA mortgages. And apparently part of the problem is that in May, there were, what's the number about, 14.7% of the total of 7.6 million mortgages in the FHA are delinquent. And that's not good. That's up slightly from April. And 10.5 of them are seriously delinquent. And what that means is that they could be going over 90 days. And when that happens, you're going to have people getting taken to the cleaners, or they're going to end up without a house. because the fact is, and then these are the top markets. This is where, and this is why this caught my eye. The top 5 markets for it is Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, Dallas, Plano, Irving. Isn't that interesting? It's that spread
Well,
of
that's
Dallas.
a big city. That's Dallas.
Yeah, but it's a north, kind of a
Yeah.
north, southeast, southwest kind of spread of Dallas, and then Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's the weird one to me is Washington, D.C.
Really? Yeah, that's true.
FHA mortgages, Washington, D.C. politicians. I don't know. That just seems weird.
Yeah, well, because FHA tend to be low-income mortgages. That's what they are, and then rounding out the top 10, by the way, were Baltimore, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Antonio, New Braunfels, Fort Worth, Arlington, Grapevine, and Philadelphia. So
A lot of Texas in there. Yeah.
4 out of the top 10 are in Texas. So what does this mean?
Interesting.
The problem is the COVID connection in all of this thing is that back during it, this count includes loans that are in forbearance. And in case you don't know what forbearance means, that's where the lender pauses or reduces payments for a limited time. Like, for instance, our SBA loan on the world headquarters here, we had several months where we did not have to pay our note, and they just took that money and put it at the end of the note. And so it's not like they forgave it, because that's the thing. Forbearance programs do not equal forgiveness. And all of these came out of COVID, and as people are coming back out of COVID, that therein lies the rub. But fortunately right now there's a lot less people requesting these forbearance programs. And if you are in forbearance, there are 3 ways out of it. For one, For one is, well, you can resume your payments. There's a timeline, and that's where these people are delinquent, is that often people you'll put your mortgage payments on an auto pay, and you've paused it, and then you have to unpause it. And that's where some of this is. So it's real simple. But some of the notes are getting to 90 days, and that's kind of a problem. But you call your lender. If you have a forbearance program, you call your lender and say, hey, let's get the payments going again. Or you can also negotiate a loan modification, and this is a little harder to do. You have to have excellent credit. You have to have a great relationship with your lender, and then they may take and balloon your note or rewrite your note in some way. But it's very difficult to accomplish, and the least likely of all the exits. And then the third option, believe it or not, sell your house. The property values have risen to a point now to where you can sell your house, given the appreciation, and sell it and preserve your credit record rather than letting it go to a point where it goes into foreclosure. And that is the worst case scenario with these forbearance stories. So forewarned is forearmed where forbearance is concerned. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what's news this week. A little Paul Harvey for you on that. All right, let's get to the questions. Tom, we got one that's come in already from Jibby John. He says, I have a portable generator set up that I want to connect to my natural gas line. I already have a separate line coming from the meter, and from the meter to where my generator will be placed is under 15 feet. What size line should I use, and is it only plumbers that do this kind of work?
I can't say it's only plumbers, but in most cases, if you're a subcontractor, if you're in the generator business and you're bringing out subcontractor electricians, subcontractor plumbers, it's going to be a plumber to do the gas line. I can't tell you what size gas line you need. That's going to be in the specifications of the size and everything else about the generator itself. If you do have a generator, you're hooking up natural gas, make sure it wasn't set up for propane. That I know, because you're going to have to switch out the orifices and stuff so it can burn natural gas. So be aware of that. Hopefully you don't have that issue. Size, I don't know. Mine's 1.25 inches on my particular generator. It's pretty big. And Charlie, I wouldn't doubt the size you have might even be 1.5 inches. But it's going to be a big pipe. It's not like the little one that feeds the logs in your log lighter. And as far as that goes, hooking it up, it's always good to get a plumber because they're the guys that do it. Now, I will tell you this. There are some companies that hook up gas lines that aren't plumbers. It could be like if you go to a barbecue grill place that sells a lot of gas grills and stuff. They're perfectly capable of hooking up your gas grills and running gas lines, hooking up gas lights, that kind of thing. You don't have to necessarily be a plumber to do that. And there are some full service generator companies that probably have someone on staff that can run the gas lines too. But the plumber is usually known for doing repair work, fixing it, putting plumbing lines in new homes. That's a big part of their job.
Mm-hmm. I've talked to Bert at KISS about this kind of issue. Specifically, the more important one, even though, I mean, you figure you have fuel and combustion next to your house, so that's something you want to be kind of careful with. But even more so, believe it or not, is hooking up that generator to the house and having, understanding how a transfer switch works, so that should the power come on and your power go out and your generator is running, where the power comes back on, your generator isn't putting electric back out into the network, where you may have linemen out there working and now the circuit is live and they think it's not. And he says that's one of the biggest challenges they run, and they have transfer switches available, and he says he has done these kind of things. And Tom, Jimmy John also says this is a tri-fuel, and that's something I think you really get into a place where it's time to...
Well, that's just going to have a switch to where you're going to put it, so it should be that simple. I have a dual fuel, which is propane or gasoline. It's just a dial. But Charlie, what you talk about transfer switches, that's going to be the electrician side. That's not going to be the gas side, just for people watching this. Gas is different. That has nothing to do with the switching of the electric transfer switch, which is a big old gizmo that goes in your house.
I was referring more to when you were saying talk to a generator company. I said when you talk to the generator company, you're going to want to talk about a transfer switch for sure.
Oh, yeah, you're going to want one for sure, because people don't like getting zapped down line. And quite frankly, that's not happening much anymore with people getting these new generators and professionally installed, and most of them are. The ones you got to worry about there are the guy that gets the one that you use on a job site, plugs it into an outlet, plugs another outlet into it. It's zipping and zapping electricity everywhere.
What could possibly go wrong?
Get everybody upset.
Exactly. Hey, Brian's watching too, and he wants to know, do you think a generator would be better than solar for taking care of your house?
Absolutely. First off, think about at least where we are, when a generator comes on, we usually have rainstorms, no sun. You don't want to have to store all that battery pack, and it's only going to do so much, especially when you're talking about an air conditioning, central air conditioning and heat system, swimming pool pumps, refrigerators, freezers, that kind of thing. The only way to go is with a generator. It's an emergency backup. You want as much zip you can get, much zap you can get, however you want to put it, for the money for those few hours that you have no power at all. Now, solar can be something you can put on a home if it's affordable. It's not yet. That can complement you being on the grid, and you can make electricity when it's there and the sun's up and the batteries are not using a lot, the batteries are being stored, you're using direct sunlight in the house, and then if you create a little extra, they buy it back. That works fine, but as a emergency system, generator, the only way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're kind of in the market at some point for an RV, and 99.9% of the RVs out there, to run the air conditioner, you got to be plugged in. Yeah, you got solar on the roof, but it only trickle charges, and it doesn't give you the heft you're going to need to run something that soaks up
not
that
an
kind
air
of
conditioner.
juice.
It'll do lights, it'll do fans, it'll do a little radio. It'll even probably do a television and probably your computer too. Charge your cell phone. Very important stuff. Charlie's leaving now. Bye, Charlie. And
Had somebody come visit this week.
Charlie is giving us the backside shot. That was very flattering.
I just noticed somebody's pawing through my books here this week, and they left one of them crooked. So
okay. Well, we saw something else that was crooked. But the fact of the matter is...
nice.
Yes, you can't run air conditioners and your refrigerator and stuff. That's why on a lot of RVs, and Charlie, I know you rented them. I haven't rented one in a long time, and you've been in one. But the one I did have, it actually had a propane refrigerator in it. It didn't even use electricity. So the cooler box would stay nice and cool running on propane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of them, they use compressor fridges now and other all kinds of options.
I'm sure it's gone a long way since the Dodge Champion in 1977. I rented to go to Mardi Gras. Yes.
Need a bit. All right. Yes. Hey, Gary's got a question. Before we move on from generators, one more question. Gary wants to know, can I tee off my existing gas line in the house before the furnace and the water heater instead of running a whole separate line for a whole house generator?
Usually not. You usually have to go right where the meter comes up to the house, because you have to hook into the large line that's coming in or coming out of the meter, and that's your biggest line. So usually they go from there directly to the generator and not powering through the house where everything gets sized down small. So the chances are you doing that? Maybe, but the chances are very slim.
Appreciate everybody who's joined us here today, and we're happy to help you. If you want to get your questions in, it's easy. Just go ahead and put it in the comment section down below. Let's see who's here. Veronica's here. John's here, of course. Gary and Christian and Gary and Annelle and Robert and Brad and Don and Rick. Jay and Francis and Larry.
Wow.
We got a bunch of folk coming in here today, so we appreciate you being here.
All my cousins.
That's right. And we're here every Thursday at 4 o'clock Central Time doing this very thing. Let's get one of your questions from the Ask Tom section at Home Show Radio. This one comes from Barbara in Denton. She says, I'm considering purchasing a whole home descaler. What are your thoughts on these, Tom? I guess she means as opposed to getting a water softener, she just wants to get a descaler.
And the first thing I hear about, at least they're using the right term, because that's what it is. It's a descaler, and I can comment a little bit about that. But the first thing that comes to mind, and it started in the 70s, they even put it on gas lines and said they'd increase your gas mileage. It was magnets, and magnets don't work. Supposedly they line up the protons and neutrons and everything. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it all. But what happens is once it runs through that, it might do it for a very short period of water time. But once it turns a corner in the pipes and does everything, it goes right back to the way it is. Where those kind of true descalers, and there's some industrial type descalers, they're used on things like cooling towers, things of this nature that are constantly circulating. And they put them at certain runs all the way around. And that way, as that water is constantly circulating, constantly moving, never stops for whatever reason in industry, manufacturing, cooling towers, whatever the case may be, that keeps the pipes somewhat clean. They do work as a descaler and keeps the pipes clean. But when you put them on a house situation where it does what it does, it straightens out all the alignment of the earth into the water and goes into the water heater, it just goes back to the way it was. It's not doing anything. It's just scaling all in your water heater. The only way you're going to get any effectiveness out of a house use when it comes to making water where it's not going to scale, as people say, it's not going to be hard, it's not going to leave hard water deposits, is a water softener. And they've tried and they've tried and they tried, and it just doesn't work. And if you look at the history of it, most of it was a pyramid multi-level scheme. It's not something you would just buy off the rack because people got too smart too fast, and the only way they could push it is to have a very motivated sales force that could care less about the outcome. Even though they had good hearts, a lot of them, they wanted the cash.
I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, it's a thing to stay out of. My sister got taken several times with that, and I know other people. Some people get real rich, but a lot of the people on the bottom just, they flounder. It's not good.
So the bottom line on that is the difference between a descaler and a water softener is one just takes the effect of the hard water out without softening it. Is that right?
It keeps it from sticking. Yeah, I'd have to look back up, but it lines up the protons, neutrons, something in there in the water.
It's
neutrons.
like,
it's the only thing I can think of, but it does. And if you Google it, they'll say exactly what it does, and it does that. It just does it for a short period of time. Water has a great memory. It goes right back to where it was.
The worst part of it. They require about 10,000 gigawatts to run, so you don't want to do that.
Yeah, that could be.
Nancy in Hedwig Village has one for you. She says, I missed your tips for removing smoking odors on the show this past week. I guess you were talking about that with a caller or something. And she wants to know, can you repeat those tips? She missed them, and apparently she's got a problem with a smoking odor in a home. She's asking for a friend.
Yeah, the biggest odor solver that I know of, and it's simple, but you got to buy a lot of it, but it's cheap, is white vinegar. You wipe the walls down with white vinegar and water. You leave shallow bowls of white vinegar around the house. One of the things that happens with a heavy smoker, it gets into the evaporator coil. So a lot of times if you're trying to eliminate it, say you're buying a home that a smoker was in before, removing and getting rid of carpet and padding is one thing. But in the air conditioning system, changing the minimal, at least this much, changing the evaporator coil, because they will turn yellow and then dark brown from the nicotine. You can't clean those. You just have to put a new one in. And depending on the kind of duct work, it's pretty hard to clean it. But what you can do is put a bowl of shallow vinegar behind your return air inside the area if you have enough room, and it will help to, absorb the odors for a while and air the house out. Open the windows. The hotter, the better. Get it good and hot in there. The vinegar and water, paint it, get rid of the carpet, and of course maybe change your evaporator coil and plenum, which is easy enough done without having to do all the duct work. But it destroys an air conditioning system, and no matter what you do to the house, people say, I still smell it. It's coming from your air returns and your air supplies.
Wow. So, and so like these odor eating buckets of solvent stuff, that doesn't help with those, or is it just a more expensive way of doing what you can get done with the vinegar?
Yeah, there's a lot of odor eaters, and they've been developed for fires and all kinds of things. You can do that, but they're only as good as long as they last, and it comes right back. It's a matter of cleaning it with the vinegar and water and trying to get rid of it, painting over it, encasing it, getting rid of the carpet, putting new carpet in that nobody has smoked around. That's really how you have to get rid of it. Now, I will give you a little tip. And let's say you get a piece of furniture from an antique store, and it's a beautiful piece of furniture. It was in a smoker's house. It just smells. Take it out on a sunny day and put it out in the sun. Remove all the drawers and everything, and let the sun just hit it. It will deodorize it. Sun does a wonderful thing. You know, the UV lights people talk about all the time. That's basically the sun is what it is. And it does a great job in getting rid of that. And then you can put a little bowl of vinegar or wipe it down on the inside of the drawers, put it back. And it actually does a great job, and it's simple to do. Just don't leave it out in the rain.
That's why you used to hang your clothing on a line behind the house.
Only way my grandmother would do it. HOAs
Right.
don't allow that anymore. But if
They
the
don't?
sheets, not the ones I know of, but maybe yours does. I
I
doubt
don't know. We've never tried. You know.
it. Put one up. Let's see. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah. I think. Thanks, Tom. Great tip. I'm on that. All right.
my grandmother would not put a sheet on a bed if it was dried in a dryer. It had to be dried in the sun because of the freshness.
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. I guess
old
that's.
school.
I wonder if that's because the UV coming in there is really cooking the stuff off of it. And
I'm sure it has a lot to do with it. The UV lights, it's natural. You stand out on long enough, you'll burn up, but it'll kill everything. It'll freshen it. Then you got the fresh air. I don't know. I used to like going to her house. The beds always were clean and smelling nice. So
You know,
that was
Gary,
my grandma.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Gary, back when we were talking about the generator, he sent another one in here. I want to address this real quick.
Yeah.
He says, can I tee off my existing gas line instead of running a whole separate line? He says it's the same size line before it's reduced for the appliances. And I think, Tom, go out on a limb here. I think the bigger issue is the meter. Because when they put my generator in, I know when they put your generator in, they had to upscale your meter for the gas that was coming onto your house.
That's true. But I like his question because after we finished with him and moved on, something occurred to me. So he's perfect. He's right on. If it needs a new meter, it needs a new meter. And that's not a cost to you. The gas company comes out and does that. So, but you usually don't change the size of the pipe going from the meter unless you have to. If you don't have to, and if you don't need a meter, I can give you an example in my house. I have a meter. It has a big pipe that goes into the back of the garage. That big pipe goes all the way across my garage through the breezeway because it's detached garage, finally gets to the house, and then it arms off into the small pipes. If you don't have to change that and it's adequate, the answer is you can tie in anywhere in a situation like that, depending on the size of the generator. Charlie, yours is much bigger than mine. And I'm not sure. I'd have to go look to see if they increased it. I haven't been out there in the back of my garage in a while. But if it's not needed to be bigger, but it's that same line, you can hook into it anywhere once it's past the meter, then the answer would be yes. But you have to make sure you got some kind of cutoff valve access to it also.
Yeah. And my generator is bigger. Tom's is air cooled. Mine's liquid cooled.
Yeah, you got to. He lives in a mansion. I live in the ghetto house.
Yeah, it's an old Kmart. We rehabbed it into a house.
Yeah.
Dawn.
It's got a lot of zeros on it.
In Sugarland. Yeah, I'm the biggest zero in there. Dawn writes to us, our kitchen sink's faucet hot water is not working. It comes out in spurts. What could be the problem? And Tom, she also, is this something she could fix herself?
Anybody can fix anything themselves if they know how to fix it.
Right.
Okay? If I knew how to fix it, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. I suspect it's the faucet. So can you replace? Is it a single handle faucet? Probably. It's kitchen. It's probably in the cartridge. So could you get a rebuilding kit and change the cartridge and the O-rings and stuff? If you knew how to do it, it's fine. It's one of those things that you're welcome to attempt it, but in some cases I probably wouldn't. I don't know what type of faucet you have, but you certainly could Google it. You can see all the parts, how they all go together, and it's going to be in the faucet. Here's the kicker, though. Some of the faucets are so cheap, they're not worth rebuilding. You can go, after all that headache and everything, go buy a brand new one ready to go in, probably, get a nicer faucet and not have any of the headaches or see if it's going to work. And a lot of people, and I chose that even once on mine, I said, you know what, I'm not going to rebuild this thing. It's getting all scratched and old. I'm just going to put a new faucet in, and I did. I did not do it because I'm too old to crawl under a sink, so I had Abacus Plumbing come out, and I paid them. And he was as big as me. I don't know how he got under there, but he did. We were talking while he was under there. I said, you're pretty big too. I don't know how you're getting under there. Anyway, that's what I did. So you have to make that decision. Is it time to just get a new one? Or is it one of the really good ones that needs to be rebuilt? And if it is, you can rebuild them. Can you do it yourself? That's a loaded question. People have asked me all my life, Tom, can I do this myself? You can do anything if you know how. So if you can find a way to find out more than just 2 minutes of me talking, then sure you can. Because if any other person can do it, you can too.
Right. Where we draw the line on that is even if you know how to perform surgery, you shouldn't do it on yourself.
Yeah, that's true. And I
Just
wouldn't
a pro
jump out of
tip.
an airplane either. But anyway.
I'm just offering that as a pro tip from my side of the screen. Okay. Number 4 question here from Tom in Mason, Michigan. He says, how would you put vinyl siding over anapestic shakes?
I think he means asbestos, but I could be wrong.
No,
What
they
is
could be anapestic. I don't have no idea what an anapestic shake is. I was hoping
I think
you would.
he meant asbestos. But anyway,
What?
Sure
you
you can.
answer it. I'm going to Google it.
do that. Anapestic's like antiseptic, I've heard of. And I don't know of any shakes like that. But now maybe it's a style in that region I don't know about. But I have a feeling it was just a word check. But as far as that goes, you could put vinyl siding over anything. That was the beauty of vinyl siding. I used to make a joke, if you wanted to, you could put it on your car. And you wouldn't have to paint your car. So, yeah, you can put it. Do you want to? I don't know. If it's asbestos, do you want to? I wouldn't put vinyl on asbestos shingles or shakes because they have a shake look. Because a great paint job is all it needs, and it's fine. If you're worried about taking them off and what to do with them, depending on where you live, I know in our part of the country, those shakes can be taken off and they can be taken to the dump because they're non-friable. It's a hard product with asbestos in it. You only have to worry about it if you try to cut it or make dust with it and then you breathe it. But as far as that goes, you can put vinyl siding on anything.
No, apparently.
Did you Google it?
I did. And apparently it's a metrical foot used in formal poetry in classic quantity meters. So apparently...
Yeah, I was going to say, oh man, I should have known that. Now I don't even care.
Apparently, these are quite poetic shakes she's got on her house there. So congratulations on that.
Well, you can put vinyl siding on that too, quite frankly.
Yes.
It deals up pretty simple. They put foam on there and put it on.
Yeah,
So,
you could do it. You could
I
do
don't know,
Dr.
but I think
Seuss.
they meant I think they meant asbestos.
You could put them on with a fox. You could put them on with a box. You could do them.
Yeah, exactly.
I will not
of
put
my
them on my
favorites.
anapestic shakes. All right, Jay in Spring Valley has our
There's
last
a word,
question.
though. See, that's that word thing on the computer.
That's it. Hey, I'm the nouns and verbs guy. You're the hammer and nails guy.
That's
All right.
it.
Jay in Spring Valley says, which builders would you, and which type of ICF form do you recommend?
I don't recommend any of them. I wouldn't use them. I don't see a reason to use them. They have been out for a while. There have been, I think the Greater Houston Building Association actually built their headquarters out of it as a kind of promoting it because they got a good deal on it so they could promote it in the news because they're building their building. But it's never caught on. Here's what I found in Florida, and one of the reasons I think is what disturbs me the most. It's a styrofoam hollow box, let's say. You stack them, you have steel in them, and you pour them full of concrete. The building practice is got validity to it. But what happens is if you get a really strong storm and it rips the stucco, the siding, the whatever's on there, it also rips off the outside of that layer of styrofoam on that box that you filled. So it just takes off the surface and you have this exposed, really bad looking wall. And you can't save it. It has to be torn down and rebuilt from scratch. So it's not repairable once it gets damaged to that point. And that's why the insurance industry that I know of backed away from the use of it. But I remember doing a TV show on Home and Garden Television back in the early 90s. And I was at one of those builder conventions, and I was hosting a how-to thing for HGTV. And they had me up there, and I had the pumper truck, and I was filling it. I mean, it's fun and everything, but it never caught on because it's got some inherent problems that will never be overcome.
Yeah, in fact, I have a very good friend who's built a lot of structures up in the Austin area using that process. Then they put stucco on the outside of it.
Yeah.
And that stucco, you know, it's kind of like a double issue because you have to maintain that stucco. You got to be putting that paint on there, about every 5 years, more often than that, Tom?
The stucco has to be painted anywhere. It's because of the wire mesh. But the biggest problem is, how do you attach anything to a styrofoam face? So you can, in wood frame construction, which it's still not good to use, you could go into the studs through it. With this, you got concrete. So there's attachment issues and there's water issues. It's good in its theory of just the wall because people say it's bulletproof. Okay, fine. But if we get that bad, we're in real trouble. As far as that goes, it's not for a home to do the things that people want to do with their homes. I wouldn't do it, so I can't recommend it.
So it's the kind of thing you use in a big retail center or something like that. Maybe
it could be commercial use, industrial storage, things of that nature. Sure, if you had a certain reason to do it, like a firework factory, that's fine.
Wow. Tom's
So a
reading the
few
news
of those
these
blow
days.
up this year.
Right. So a few of those trucks go up, yeah. So, hey, I hope you had a good 4th of July. Did you get to see any fireworks over the 4th? I didn't ask you.
Oh my God! I live in a neighborhood. I'm renting a place in Brownsville, and this is one party neighborhood.
Yeah.
These people here party, and let me tell you, they barbecue. There wasn't even a wild cat roaming this neighborhood. Everything was cooked and eaten that night. Everything. Okay. The rats were running. Oh, run! They're gonna eat us. But the fact of the matter is, we had neighbors that were shooting them off till 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
I just put earplugs in and went to sleep. I'm not a fireworks guy. In fact, it makes me a little jumpy. And of course, Sandra's down here with me, and she's like, "Won't they please stop? Go out there." I said, "I'm not going out there to tell them. They might barbecue me."
No cats were harmed in the making of today's show. I just want to make that really
That's
clear.
true.
All right. And thanks to Mary and Scott and Ron, Pete and Leela. They're what we call, they're on the late train getting on board, and we appreciate you being here. We get here, if you want to get here and catch the entire show, you need to be here at 4 o'clock Central Time every Thursday. We're here. If you missed any part of the show, you want to see it, it'll stream again. You can watch it, or we'll restream it live Friday night at 9 o'clock, and then Sunday afternoons at 3 o'clock, all Central. If you want to catch the show. If you want to get your questions on the show, all you got to do is go to homeshowradio.com, click on the Ask Tom button right there. It'll take you to this page where you can fill out the form and send in questions and all that. And we may well use your question on this show or in one of our daily Ask Tom videos. We post them every day at homeshowradio.com, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and all that. So if you really want help with problems around the house, you should go to and subscribe to our Home Show Radio YouTube channel, because Tom has contributed thousands of answers to every kind of problem around a house, and it's a college education in home improvements there waiting for you on the YouTube channel. And I welcome you to subscribe and click the bell, and you'll know when we put new ones up. All right, that, if you couldn't gather, is pretty much it. Tom, you want to remind everybody where to find you this weekend?
Yeah, this Saturday I'll be on from 9 to 12, Sunday 8 to 11 on Sports Radio 610. And don't forget to listen to Danny, our garden expert, on Saturday from 7 to 9 before I go on. He's a great guy and he has a great show. He will help all of you with your gardening tips and great advice. And
before we go, I've got one for you from the, let me turn this off because I don't want this to get in the way of this. From the Don't Try This at Home department. How do you like that picture of that guy there?
It doesn't look good right now. I haven't seen this, but the wheelbarrow seems a little precarious.
Yeah, standing in his wheelbarrow with a chainsaw. What could possibly go wrong? But wait, I can do better.
Gory.
Check out this guy. He's on a ladder. He's in his shrubs. Let me get out my trimmer. And here we go. Now he's ready to get down to business. And away he goes.
Don't do that.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show Radio. Home Show